I'll say this. It was listed for $10 million on
Oh my God.
either GoDaddy or Namecheap, one of those sites. And when I
Yeah.
first saw it, I was like, 10 million is crazy, right? That's super expensive. But in the right hands, I think a domain like that could be so valuable, right? So I went back to the team and I said, look, hear me out, right? Anime.com. It's listed for 10 million, but let's just throw out an offer that we think is fair and let's go from there. And let's just see if they even get back to us.
Welcome back to another episode of Andrew Asks How podcast. Today with me, I have the founder and I believe CEO as well of Azuki, Z. We appreciate you joining us. How you doing today?
Thank you, Andrew, for having me. Excited to be here.
Of course, we appreciate you jumping on again. Really, right out the gate, I will ask. You attend pretty much every conference, it seems like. What are the benefits from going to all these conferences in your guys' brand position?
Yeah, actually, I don't attend that many conferences. I tend to be more selective because, truth be told, I'm not a huge fan of conferences. I'm pretty low key. I keep to myself. And I think with conferences, uh, if I attend, it's usually because we have an event. So for Token, Azuki Singapore, we threw an event with the community along with Arbitrum. And so I was there for the week and really glad I went because it was a very eventful week. A lot of cool stuff happening. And I think just being there, were you there, by the way?
I was not. No, I was
Okay.
not. Unfortunately, no.
Okay. Yeah. Because it was interesting because the people that were there were, having a great time. People on Twitter were kind of like, like Token, whatever.
Complaining.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but no, it was a great event because I felt like you could really feel the energy. There were a lot of different types of builders. It wasn't just one, primary narrative or group of projects that were really taking over. Obviously, you had the L1s, L2s of the world, DPIN, AI were some big narratives, RWAs, etc. And meme coins, as well, not that big of a talk. And I think with NFTs,
Yep.
what we're seeing is like we're not dominating the conversation, but the strength of the community is second to none. And so for Azuki, we have an excellent community out there in Singapore, and we held an event with Arbitrum, and it was a great time because like the venue was so perfectly Azuki themed, like the Torii gates, just the overall vibe was just immaculate. And what was awesome about that event is every piece of merch that we were selling, all of the displays of different products. Like we had Co-Museum display the golden skateboard that was signed by Tony
Very nice.
Hawk.
Very
We
nice.
had like Kobo Craft with the skateboards. We had Azuki Singapore with the merch boxes. That was all done by the community, and so for us to give them a platform to sell their products was, it's part of the original vision for Azuki. And so, on the event side, it was awesome. I think for me, because I don't go to too many events, I use it as an opportunity to just meet a lot of other founders, meet with a lot of other projects, and met a lot of really cool people for the first time. I sat next to the CEO of Jupiter at a dinner, Meow, and he's
Yeah.
he's super awesome. And then we did a little custom cat Azuki for him after.
Very nice.
And so just a lot of good conversations. And really good energy and momentum coming out of that.
I'm just curious. You don't often hear, like, we don't often hear that of founders or CEOs, I guess, in our industry specifically, that don't attend too many conferences. And I agree with you. I don't think all of them are very purposeful. All of them are needed. Obviously, the ones where we have events, we collectively should end up going. But most of them, And my team can tell you this. I say most of them could be a waste of time depending on what's there. When you guys go to events, what are some things that you look for in deciding of that you guys are going to go? Like what are the like I guess not like KPIs, but more so indicators of like if this event has this, so we will go because of this. I will have an event because of this.
Yeah, I think my personal goal as a founder now, and this is something I've reflected on a lot, is when I started the project, I was pseudonymous. Right? People didn't
Yep.
really put a face behind the name, and the the way that Azuki like to work is that we like to kind of build in silence, right? Because we know we can make quality products, we know we can do really awesome drops, and we want to surprise and delight our community. But I think what worked a couple years ago does not work in this day and age, right? We have to evolve as a team, along with the market dynamics, along with the what other people are doing. And I think what is important now as a team and also as a founder is for us to be more out there, right? So I figured it's time to put a face behind the name, especially now as we're introducing a refreshed vision of Anime 2.0, a more democratized anime industry for the world, and bridging Web 2 and Web 3 when it comes to the anime industry. I think it's really important that people are hearing this from someone that they can see, that they can meet in person. And so for me to go to these events and do interviews, meet the community face to face, talk to other teams, it's really important. And I was at the WebEx conference in Tokyo a couple of weeks prior to Token, and there, a lot of our partners and Japanese IP holders are there. And so for me to be there, representing the community, I think is really important. So when it comes to like deciding which events that we go to, I think like most of the bigger ones is key because a
Yep.
lot of people show up, and so it's a good time for us to meet more people outside of just our project. So Token is obviously one of the biggest ones, and then looking ahead later this year, I think DevCon will likely have presence there, and maybe one or two more. Um, and yeah, I'm actually not sure how far ahead other teams plan. I think for us, we like to plan maybe 2, 3 months out at the very least. But sometimes an event or opportunity comes up last minute, right? The whole team's
Yeah.
scrambling and trying to put something together. Thankfully for Token,
Yeah.
we've been wanting to do this for a while because last year for Token, we had an awesome event with the Azuki Singapore community as well. And so we were able to lock in a great venue and really really have a good turnout.
On the topic of obviously Anime Z, your guys, I guess mission statement on the account on X is one of the best around. I think it's very glaring
Thank
and a
you.
good one. I'll even read it here. It's building open anime universe. When you read this, when you think of this, when you tell people this, what comes to mind for you?
Yeah, it's maybe I can go back to the original inspiration for this vision. It really crystallized more over time. Um, but I can recall two moments where I was really inspired to come up with this vision. The first one is back in 2018 or so. I had been working in the crypto space full time for about a year. I was working on a DeFi protocol called 0x, and we did decentralized exchange. And I played a role in kind of growing that community from the ground up, and I saw firsthand how powerful Web3 communities can be, and that can be turbocharged with tokens, and you kind of have a really strong network effect of people who are participating in the community and really helping establish the project. And so, what I noticed then is that blockchain is not just a technology, it's not just infrastructure for other people to build on. It's really a new medium for entertainment. Because even back then, right, we had crypto Twitter. It's very different than it is today. But you have some like a few of the same names, but it was just so interesting because it was a combination of technology, obviously, of these weird and fun apps being built. DeFi Summer came around, and there were a bunch of these food farms, right, where you could ape into, and I think people were just designing different games and obviously there's a financial stake in play as well. So it was social, it was community, it was financial, it was technology, it was culture. So it was a mix of all these things. And so that was the first thing that inspired me to be like, okay, well, this sort of open entertainment universe that crypto is fostering is really interesting, right? So what more can we build on that? And so I just kind of kept that thought in my back pocket. And then like a year later, I came across this article or blog post. It was written by uh, Packy McCormick. He writes some really great posts on a number of different topics, but this one was called "The Great Online Game." And the concept of this article is basically that in this digital day and age where we're all online for most of our day, and essentially we're just all pressing keys on a computer. And if you hit the right keys in the right order for long enough, maybe you can, get a great job, you can buy a house, right? You can make money. And it's really this like gamified online adventure where every decision that you make results in experience earned, and you can unlock different paths depending on how you want to play this great online game. And so that really resonated with me because, like, I don't know if you grew up gaming or not, but for me, like, RuneScape was one of the first like MMOs that I've played. And being able to make friends in that game, being able to level up my skills, earn the in-game currency to buy better items, that was so fun for me. And I realized after working crypto for a couple of years that cryptocurrency is really the digital currency for this great online game. And everything that I was doing at work, right, was kind of leveling up
Yep.
myself and my
Yep.
my guild, my team in this great online game. And
Yep.
so those two things combined, I think, made me really prepared for 2021, where I saw various NFT projects start to blossom, these NFT communities start to really take shape, Bored Apes being one of them. And I realized that, they weren't really thinking about themselves as a brand at that time, right? It was like a club of like minded people. Um, but I thought, how can you take that concept even further and really create this foundational brand and IP layer for people to then build on top of to create this anime universe? Because anime is like a art form and medium that really meant a lot
Yep.
for me growing up, watching Dragon Ball Z,
Yeah.
drawing, for
Yeah.
hours,
Yeah.
perfecting my Goku and Vegeta, and
Yeah.
so um, uh, how can we take these concepts that blockchain and tokens can enable, and then inspire other people to join this community and build this anime universe together. And that's the original concept of that vision. And so, in order to do that, our first step was, well, we need to actually build a really great anime brand and curate a really creative community to kickstart this vision. And so that was, the first couple of years of Azuki was, how do we accomplish that? And so I think now this open anime universe vision is starting to take shape in various ways. We're doing it by creating our own IP now with Azuki.
Yep.
We're doing it now. I'm sure we'll get into it later. We're doing
Yeah.
it now with building our own platform, right?
Yeah.
Anime.com. And
Yep.
so, that's starting to kind of grow in a lot of ways. Yeah.
Did you? I'll ask you this first. Are you familiar with the concept of the idea maze or no?
Yes. Yes.
So,
Yes.
because you know the concept, I can elaborate on this a little bit for the listeners. Basically, the concept TLDR of this is the entrepreneur, the person of the thing that they're professionally doing now, they were subconsciously doing as a kid, the way that Z might have done before starting Azuki, the way that he did, got all these skills, compounded all these skills, acquired all these things, had a thought process 20 years ago, 10 years ago, and then that led up to the very moment of him starting it. A lot of the best entrepreneurs, as they say, have gone through that idea maze prior to doing the actual thing that they were now doing for the rest of their life, but they did it whether it was in a placement program, whether it was in college, it was in university, it was in high school, it was in a summer camp for 3 summers in a row. They have done the version of the thing years before actually doing the thing, and then eventually doing the thing professionally. And I think you're a perfect case study of this, which is awesome. Did you always know it was going to be anime though? Did you always know, or was it one of those things that just kind of fell on your lap and maybe it was like hitting a wall almost?
Yeah, as a follow up to the idea maze, I think I always knew that playing all those games as a kid growing up was going to amount to something, and so if my mom's watching this right now, hopefully she's she can go back and be like, you know what, yeah, it's good that I let him play some more RuneScape and MapleSword.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so did I always know that it was going to be anime? So when we first sat down and were ideating on the concept of what we wanted this project to be, and I'll give you the backstory. So I have three other co-founders, and they're all technical, and we knew we wanted to build a community using NFTs, but we didn't know exactly what type of art style, what type of concept we wanted to create. But all of us were so three of us are Asian American, um, and we have one other American guy, um, and this and then but we didn't have any artists on the team, right? So I remember going on ArtStation and looking at a whole bunch of artists. I think we had 100 artists we looked at. When you ranked them S tier, A tier, B tier, and they were all kind of like in like a video game sort of style, sort of like 3D, like
Yep.
Valorant or League of Legends,
Yep.
Overwatch, that kind of style, or more of a 2D like illustrative style. I think that was just more my personal preference, right? So once I got that list, I started just cold emailing every single artist. And there was only one S tier artist that got back to me, and that was Arnold Tang or Steamboy. And he was the original artist, character artist for Overwatch, and he designed the original 15
Wow.
characters. Absolute legend in the industry. And he had been thinking about what could I do in the Web3 space. He had actually done some NFT drops of himself on Foundation, and all the proceeds went to charity. And it was like really cool pixel, animation art. And so when we met, it was just like, this is the perfect match. So he was the very first artist on the team. And so we had this offsite where, we just all were ideating on what the concept of this project could be. And there were a few other concepts that we liked. One was actually like a post-apocalyptic style, kind
That's
of like a
exciting.
Mad Max style.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but in terms of the actual art style, we always liked anime. I think it's just the art style that resonated the most with us, being Asian American, and so yeah, Steamboy just started like mocking up a bunch of different styles, and a few inspirations for us was Cowboy Bebop, um, Samurai Champloo, Akira was another big one, and we really like this like lo-fi sort of chill vibe, and
Oh,
so
so it was a feel. You guys are chasing a feel then. It was a feel.
exactly. Yeah. It was like we were thinking a lot about the brand and what we wanted people to feel when they saw the brand or when they were part of the community.
Yeah.
And so that's how the concept of the name, like Azuki, came about. Is we wanted this concept of people growing together, right? And Azuki means red bean in Japanese, and that's how the
Mm.
concept of the garden came about, right? Because we're just all beans or little seedlings in a garden, and we're all growing together. And so everything sort of came together, and we really liked anime as an art style because it was very nostalgic, but it was also a growing medium. It's still a massive industry, and
Yeah.
and it's growing globally. And so we wanted a style that was not fully Japanese anime, but not fully like westernized cartoon either. So I think Azuki is a good blend of both. And it kind of has this East meets West element, which is pretty true to my personal mission in bridging the East and the West. And so I think, fast forward 2 years and been building Azuki as this anime brand, um, and then developing our own IP now with the anime anthology series. I learned a lot more about the challenges of the anime industry in the production committee model, and how the way that anime is produced is in a very centralized manner, where there's only a few stakeholders that own the IP, and the animators who actually work very long hours but receive very little pay have
Yeah.
very little upside, right? Even if the
Yep.
anime title just takes off. And so that combined with our model that we really push forward, which is a more decentralized co-creation model, where we can sort of co-own this IP and build it together alongside the community. That seemed like a playbook that could actually affect the rest of the industry, right?
Yes.
And so that's where, like, in the very beginning, we didn't fully recognize the power of what we were doing, even though it was still anime. Um, but years later, I think this vision of like what we can do within anime just got bigger and bigger, right? To the point now where it's like, hey, what we did with Azuki, I think the rest of the industry can adopt as well. And we want to create a platform to help make this happen. And now we just announced anime.com, and so we're kind
Yeah.
of pushing that vision further along.
Before we dive into anime.com and all the nitty gritty interesting things that happen there, I'm a big fan, proponent of teams that make big bets, because the big bets are the ones that, if they hit and if they, over a period of time have downstream effects positively, if they hit, really serve the brand well in a decade, in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 50 years, depending on the lifespan, all that stuff. It's very, very positive, of course. And I don't think a team needs to make 10 big bets a year. I think one a year, two a year, I think are fantastic. You guys are currently making your big bets, and one of them being obviously anime.com. But before we jump into that, I want to know what the big bets that you guys are making, and maybe there's some big bets you guys are making downstream that we have no idea about that has not been public. Why have you chosen to make these bets with these things? What about
Yeah,
anime.com plus other things really makes you want to make a bet on this?
yeah. I think for us, when looking at what a lot of other players are doing in the space, I think we're in a really interesting period of time where crypto historically has been mainly about infrastructure, right? You
Yeah.
look at Ethereum, and it's basically like a supercomputer, open, permissionless, and there's a lot of challenges with the speed, latency, throughput, and whatnot. It's very technical, but what that
Yeah.
enables is the applications to be built on top of it. And obviously, DeFi was one of the first use cases that got product market fit. And now we're seeing a lot of other chains that are much faster, right? And they have various properties and have different cultures as well. And all these chains are going after the application layer and trying to attract the best teams to build on top of them. I think a chain is only good as the apps that are built on top of it.
Yeah.
And so for us, when thinking about what is it that we need in order to realize our vision of this open anime universe, it's not to build some generalized infrastructure that can attract teams that are building all over the place. And there's plenty of really talented teams that are doing that, right? So I think overall it's very good for the industry. So for us, how can we contribute the most value? And how can we get closer to our vision? And that's by building something that's highly specialized, that's very specific to just the anime vertical. And so you might have seen me say this on Twitter, but I've really been preaching this vision of like, hey, we need to go not wider, right? We need to go deeper in just the anime vertical. And so that's why we have Azuki, which is our standalone anime IP. We have Anime Chain, which is an L3 in partnership with Arbitrum. And now we have anime.com, which is going to be an anime platform for not just Web3, but also Web2 anime fans. And so we're highly focused on just the anime industry. And someone asked me recently, they said, like, why only anime? Why not build a chain for all of entertainment, right? Something more generalized, because then
Yeah.
you can go after, music and,
Everything.
fashion and
Yeah.
everything. And my answer to that is, I think if it wasn't anime and it was another category, then maybe I would consider it. But anime is such a deep and engaged community of fans, and it's relative to how many fans there are. It's a huge industry. It's a massive industry, right? It's already a $30 billion industry, and it's on trend to grow to 60 billion by 2030. And
Wow.
to put it in scale, like that'll be bigger than movies and the music industry put together, right? By 2030. And the reason for that is because anime fans are one of the deepest fans when it comes to any sort of category in the world,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Because of just their passion for everything anime.
Yep.
It's become more than just a category; it's a lifestyle. If you go to
Yes.
Japan, it's permeated just every part of one's lifestyle, and you
Yes.
see it everywhere. And now it's starting to kind of bleed over to the West. You see kind of celebrities
Yep.
talking about it. I think KFC just did a collab with Genshin Impact.
That's
Um,
crazy.
yeah, McDonald's did a collab with Jujutsu Kaisen, right? So it's only getting better, and the
It's
consumerism and
happening.
fandom is just getting deeper and deeper. And so I think for us, there's no better time to really focus on just
Yeah.
delivering the best experience for fans and creators with anime.com, and then supporting that with the infrastructure being Anime Chain. And so that's why we're going deeper on just anime.
It's interesting. You obviously are a fan of Dragon Ball Z. A friend of mine, a good friend of mine, I'm not sure if he'll watch this, but if he does, he'll think, "Oh, that's me." I'm like, "Yeah, it is you." He has been collecting collectibles for the past, let's say, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years. He got into Dragon Ball Z. He always watched it as a kid, but now I'm a little bit tapped into the space from a collectible standpoint. And Dragon Ball Z has these cells. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the cells.
Yeah,
And the cells were written or created by, drawn by the original artists in the 90s and the 80s and all that stuff. And
yeah,
he
the cell
collects
sheets. Yeah,
them.
they go for a
You
lot.
got it.
Yeah,
You got it for 10,000, 20,000, 30,000. And a lot of his dealings happen on actually private auctions, was not even public auction. And a lot of the stuff and the numbers that he tells me, insane numbers,
yeah,
insane numbers. And like his personal thesis is that it's still in its infancy stage, especially with Dragon Ball Z.
yeah, absolutely. And I think Uh, one thing that has a high overlap is anime fans love to collect, right?
Yes.
And what is a
High
great
ticket price, very
collector
high
item?
ticket price too.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's
Yep.
and I think that's why you see a lot of like high quality figurines, right? Toys,
Yep.
collectibles that are all anime themed. Um, and as a fan, one of the challenges right now is if you watch a new anime and you really enjoy it, let's say, like whatever, new anime, like let's say the new Dragon Ball Daima thing, which is coming out in a couple weeks. You finish watching it and you want to buy merch or something from that anime. It's really hard to do that because it's just not a great experience right now because Crunchyroll
Yep.
doesn't really have great things for you to buy because they focus primarily on streaming, Netflix as well. And so you go on these other sites, you buy it, you don't know if it's official or not, you don't know what the quality
Yep.
is like, and you wait a couple months, it finally arrives. And so I
Yep.
think a digital collectible experience is something that anime fans will really enjoy, and you can take the speculation and stuff out of it, right? It doesn't need to be something that's traded
Yes.
on a open marketplace. It could even just be a soul bound thing. But
Yep.
people want to engage with the IP and they want to have that social component with other fans at the time of consumption, and that's missing right now. And so I think that's something where Web3 can really provide. But yeah, there's my thesis is just that like the world, especially anime fans, gamers as well, they love NFTs. They just don't know it yet because it hasn't
Yes.
been shown to them, and it hasn't been done in a way that's added value, right? But I think we're gonna get there.
I agree with that. Off topic, I was going through our text right now, the friend of mine, and I have a image here. I'm not sure how well it's gonna be received on the camera side because we're on, obviously my desktop here. But if you guys can see it, Z users as well, like it's an example of like a cell sheet. One of the thousands that he has, probably one of the 50 to
Mhm.
100, realistically, thousand too much, that he does for a majority of his day. And it's a very fascinating world, and they're all high ticket price. NFTs are also high ticket price. So I think at some point the world's gonna collide the way you said, and it'll be very, very nice for all the true believers.
On the topic of sell sheets, after we release episode 1 of our anthology series, there's quite a few people in the community that DM'd me. I was like, hey, can I get my hands on some sell sheets on the Genga? I would love to collect it. I'll pay a lot for it. And so I think it's something that people are looking for. So maybe we can.
You guys are gonna do it. See, you guys are gonna do it, right? You guys are gonna let them collect it and maybe even get them here to the auctions or like get them PSA'd.
I think, yeah, that's definitely something we're considering. Like what we did for episode 1 actually is we had the full episode on Zora for people to mint. So you could collect the episode, or you could collect a poster for it. And then all of the Zora protocol rewards, all the fees that were generated were sent to the animation studios. I think in total it was like 50,000 or so dollars that we generated for the studios. And in Web3, it's like, oh, that's 50K is not that much, right? But to the animators, they were like, what? Like, how did you do this? Like, that's crazy. Like, they were so ecstatic. I think that's just a glimpse of the power of Web3. And I think we're just only starting to uncover that.
I think the sell sheets is a great idea, because you guys are writing and making history, you're leaving trail crumbs behind, and I think it'll be very impactful, very powerful in the next decade, especially to have those, I guess, owned by people and let that fandom, even from 10 years ago to now, in hindsight rather, will take place. Before we get into the topic of the platform anime.com, the purchase and everything like that, all the ins and outs of this, all the nitty gritty stuff. John, can you pull up the quote here for a second, the lengthy one, just so Zeke and the listeners can read this as well as I read it?
This is like a Joe Rogan, hey, Jamie, pull up the, whatever.
You got it. Hey, Jamie, we can pull it up right quick, please. I want to read this, and I got a question for you after, Z. I'll kick us off. Be careful what you pretend to be. I started feeling like I had to live up to in private the things which I was saying to in public. I think about it all the time, and I've come to realize that there's two sides to fake it until you make it. One is posting an ideal or better version of yourself, which you are motivated to live up to due to the need for social consistency. But this stake in the ground acts as much like a tether as it does a finish line. If you can't commit to yourself, to somehow worldview or your life philosophy, which happens if you stop agreeing with it. Sure, you might want to change, but everyone around you has grown accustomed to the previous version of you. Whether it's lifestyle changes, like your dietary approach or training mythology, world-like changes like religious belief or political affiliation, or personality changes like commitment to personal growth, going sober, or changing friend groups. Social consistency bias is a double-edged sword. A while ago, some of the leading influencers of this diet, then the carnivore diet, started to add fruit into their food, then called the meat and fruit diet, caused an uproar in the community. Not because of the evidence that the diet is based on, but because its new opponents had started to believe differently in the past, and that caused change around the people around them. This is the danger. The social incentives align for you not to change in public, even if you grow out your beliefs in private. Stupid people see someone change their mind as indication of mystification because they don't understand that updating your worldview when you grow is a sign of intelligence, not fickleness. And that unwavering commitment to a narrow worldview is not cleverness, but a substitute for it, which unfortunately means that changing your mind in public often results you in being attacked by large groups of mostly stupid people. And the more you public argue about it, the harder it is to reverse. We are what we pretend to be, so we must be careful about what we pretend to be. When I read this, what did you think of?
I think it's very true, and I haven't quite reflected on this topic in this specific manner specifically. I think it relates to authenticity for me.
Yeah.
And I think in this day and age, especially as a founder, people expect you to, be out there. People expect you to have, strong opinions. People expect you to follow through. And when that's broken, right, a lot of things start falling apart. But I think as I've gotten older and I've, worked on Azuki now for almost 3 years, um, actually this hat that I'm wearing, right? Still learning. I guess
Yeah.
it's kind of a meme that I've leaned
Yeah.
into. My coworker Seb, who's our head of contact, he picked it up for me in Japan. He saw it. He's like, I gotta get this receipt.
That's sick.
The thing is, you can't if like we're all striving to be someone better. I think, right? Because you have a goal for yourself on who you want to be, and I think everyone should kind of have that. And there is definitely a sense of you got to fake it till you make it to a large degree. But you should never fake something so much that it doesn't feel like it's authentically you anymore. And
Yep.
and so I think my reaction to this is that it's okay if the stupid people are getting angry over you changing your opinions, right? Because what that means is there are smart people, or there are empathetic people that are really hearing the authenticity and really resonating with the courage that it takes to go out there and change your opinion. Um, so I think what's important is that people are vocal and that you communicate the rationale behind the why. And if you're just changing your opinions all the time but not explaining the why, I don't think you're really continuing to kind of grow and cultivate your community. You're just leaving a lot of people in the dark. You're just flip flopping all around. There's no
Yep.
sense of you anymore, right? So I think this is a good warning to be careful not to let people knock you off your course. But at the same time, I think the flip side of this is that if you um, are transparent with who you are and how your opinions are changing, and you're explaining your rationale, and you're putting yourself out there, you will cultivate a very authentic community of people that really believe in you. I think I've seen and felt this firsthand with the Azuki community because we've been through a lot of ups and downs. I started as a character, right, Vagabond. You didn't know who
Yep.
I was, and now I think I've evolved as a founder, and now I'm putting myself more out there, and this is a new version of me, right? And I don't believe in running a project by being fully anonymous anymore,
Yep.
because I don't think it works for me. It doesn't work for Azuki, right? So that's a change in opinion. And I think some people in the community, when I started being more out there, actually gave me the feedback, like, you know what? I think the mysterious Z I liked better because it was just the aura around the mystique, right, was super dope. And I think you should do more of that, the storytelling and everything. And other people were like, hey, I love that you're more out there now. I feel like this is exactly what we need in this moment.
Yep.
And keep doing what you're doing. So ultimately, I take all the feedback, I take all the input, but I'm just going to keep doing what I think is best for me, right, and for Azuki, and that's that. And I know there's going to be people that are continue to not be a fan, or say a bunch of stuff online. Yeah, that's fine, right? Because for me, it's like hate it or love it, right? If you're still talking about me, I still consider you a fan. So that's how I approach it.
And I asked that because watching the progress of the brand over the past 2 years, if not more, has gone from just some NFT brand, NFT project, as they used to say back then, to now a brand that purchased anime.com is absolutely insane. You've gone from this to this in nearly 2 years. And as I'm reading this, I'm thinking of the entire trajectory from back then till now, and then now until the next 3, 4 years, with even potentially pioneering an entire industry based off of
Hmm.
what you guys are looking to do with anime. Like, we actually don't know where this is going to go,
Yep.
but I think the fact that you have your supporters, and that's what counts. And I hope that that quote there resonated with you and some of the community as well.
Yeah. Totally.
Now, the interesting thing, you guys bought anime.com, as we've said about 4 times, for how much? What was the amount?
Yeah. So, well, okay. I'll say this: it was listed for $10 million on
Oh my God.
either GoDaddy or Namecheap, one of those sites. And when I
Yeah.
first saw it, I was like, 10 million is crazy, right? That's super expensive. But in the right hands, I think a domain like that could be so valuable, right? So I went back to the team and I said, look, hear me out, right? Anime.com. It's listed for 10 million, but let's just throw out an offer that we think is fair and let's go from there. And let's just see if they even get back to us. And so I think it was very serendipitous because we threw out an offer, um, not nearly as much as you think, and
Yep.
it got accepted. So I won't say exactly how much, but I think it's a fair price, and yeah. So what I tell my team and the community now is like with a great domain comes great responsibility. Right? We have a lot
Yeah.
of passionate anime fans across the world. I think it's up to us to create a platform that really delivers value. But I think for us to have that domain is yeah, it's awesome. So I'm really glad we
Yeah,
have it.
anime.com is a great domain, and obviously the amount that you spent, I assume it was still in the seven-figure mark, and to most people, they'll never ever see seven figures
Less,
from a personal
less,
standpoint. Oh, less. Oh, this is a good deal
less.
then.
Yeah,
This is a
yeah,
very good deal.
right.
This is a very good deal. Then you guys absolutely undercut them. This is very good from a business standpoint. Um, Despite the amount of money you guys, I guess, upfront, or maybe went 50-50 now in 6 months and 6 months afterwards, whatever the structure of the deal was, I have no idea. And I won't even ask. So there's probably some legalities around that, which is cool. You spent the money up front, right? And I think it was money well spent, especially if it's under seven figures. What would make sense for you in hindsight to say that this was a good decision? Is it recouping that money back? Is it organic traffic? Is it the fact that that domain is one of the most popular domains in the world now in a decade from now? What is it? What has to happen for you to say, guys, remember we bought that domain for, minus seven figures? What a good decision that was. What would it take for you to say that in, let's say, 4 years from now?
Yeah, I think I like to measure what this team does and what this community does by impact. And I think the larger of an impact we make, I think the bigger of a reward for everyone that there'll be. That's just kind of how the world works, right? So I think for us, we noticed a challenge in the anime industry, and we think that we can create something valuable for all anime fans and creators to have a bigger piece of this whole anime industry that they help build. And so, years later, hopefully we can use this domain to actually play a big part in accomplishing that mission. And if we do, great. I think the domain is well worth it. So I think of the domain as really just another project that we launch. It's a means to an end, right? It helps us get closer to our vision, and hopefully everything together at the end is going to make for something that's very valuable for anime fans and creators all over the world. So it's hard to say exactly, we have to generate X amount of revenue or whatever. Like, of course, that's
Yeah.
good. But
Yeah.
ultimately, I think it's just all about the impact.
And we also spoke about anime chain as well. What about having a chain that's strictly towards anime for you guys and all those that are going to come behind you and obviously join you in the journey for there? What is the value prop to all the teams that are going to be building on the applications on the chain? Because as you said, as I agree, and many as well, that the applications, the apps, the D apps on the chain
Mm-hmm.
make the chain.
Yep.
What is your value prop to them to build on this chain with you guys?
Yeah. It's a great question. And I think we're taking a pretty different approach than most other chains right now. I think most chains right now, they want to really showcase their technology. They want to show the culture of the chain, and they want to attract the best teams. And they really want to build like a thriving ecosystem around it. That's definitely the right playbook if your goal is to build a general purpose chain. For us, the goal with the first phase of Anime Chain is really to support anime.com to do everything that anime.com needs to do. Now, thankfully, we're working within the Arbitrum ecosystem, and their Orbit technology allows us to spin up an L3 fairly simply. And there's a lot of great technology that allows us to build anime.com into the type of product that we need. And so if you go on anime.com right now, you can actually sign up for the wait list. So for all the listeners that haven't done it already, super
Yep.
simple. All we need is your email, right? You register. That gives you a wallet through account abstraction on Anime Chain Testnet. And you can get some stickers to use when anime.com is live. And those stickers are actually NFTs that are minted on the testnet as well. And this is all without paying gas, all without signing a transaction. And so the user doesn't even know that they interacted with the blockchain. And this is enabled through Anime Chain and through Arbitrum. And so the first phase is really enabling anime.com to be a platform that can have millions of users, right? The second phase then is we have the users now on anime.com. How can we then build an ecosystem around all of these anime users that we have now, and have apps come through the ecosystem and build products for these anime fans? And so in the upcoming months, we'll be talking more about the different protocols on the chain that can help enable better dev experiences for applications down the line. But the first phase is really focused around supporting anime.com.
And when it comes to the metrics of the L3 or any chain, I think people get really wrapped up and sucked into this TVL narrative, when in reality, a lot of it is kind of, no offense to anybody, a lot of it is a fugazi. You
Mm-hmm.
can probably pay somebody XYZ dollars to deploy, 1 billion market cap or TVL on the chain or whatever it is, through whatever token, to make sure that TVL is hit. A lot of it is kind of fugazi. In my opinion, obviously, some of it matters, some of it doesn't. It's very gray line. And with that being said, when coming to Anime Chain and the L3 you guys are building out, what are the metrics that you guys are looking at to have improved and to have, let's say, stay relevant, stay consistent, and stay on the right growth curve?
Yeah, I think so. For the first phase, it's really about user growth for anime.com. That's our core focus. We want to create a product that can attract real anime fans that are even outside of Web3. Right. So as long as users are coming to the platform, and retention is another metric, and that's something that I think all of Web3 struggles with. Is you have these huge airdrop farming campaigns that attract a lot of users that are here for basically to get the airdrop. Once the airdrop happens, they're not going to use the platform anymore, right? So the retention
Yeah.
is not great. But hopefully for us, since we're building such a specialized product for anime fans, once they come try out the product, and it's something valuable for them and they enjoy being there, retention is good, user growth is going up. So that'll be our North Star metrics for the first phase.
I have an interesting question that I wrote down here before the show, and I asked a few founders of this, but I want to get your take on it. Would Azuki be successful without the NFTs?
No, absolutely not. I think because of and so the reason for that is because the NFTs enabled us to curate and cultivate this awesome community, right? Where people feel like their digital identity is this Azuki, right? This anime character. And they were able to help shape Azuki and grow it into what it is today. Without that, it would have been incredibly difficult to build a brand from scratch, right? I think it would have been incredibly difficult to make our own anime series without the strength of the community. Um, when we talk to the Japanese studios who we're partnered with, most of them are backed up for years. Even if they like your
Wow.
story and they like your IP, and they go, okay, we will work on an anime movie or series, but we'll start it in 2027, right? And so, but because they want to try things in a new way, because they're very excited about this more decentralized model of IP creation, they slated us first, and so now we have the anthology series coming out. So none of this would have been possible without NFTs, without the community, and so I think it's absolutely critical for our success and what we're doing.
For I guess everyone's know-how, what's the traditional way up until this point in time, this moment in time, the way that anime IP anime and the IP of the IP that's being showcased, um, has like really made it big and like blown up? What's been the traditional route for this in this industry in this world?
Yeah, so a lot of the I'll go through the history of a couple of the most popular anime titles out there. So take Naruto or Dragon Ball Z,
Yeah,
right, which you talked about earlier. One Piece is probably the most popular anime right now. They were all started originally from manga, right? So manga artists they draw and these serialized comics essentially. And there's a company in Japan called Shueisha, and Shueisha owns this magazine called Shonen Jump, where every week they'll come out with a new issue, right? And what they do is they scout out the best manga artists, and so they're called mangaka, right? And so they draw these stories, and the best ones get picked up by Shonen Jump, and they put it in the issue. If fans like it, if the communities like it, then they get serialized, right? Which is a dream come true for these artists. Now they can tell more of their stories, and so Shueisha has a team of about 100 editors within the company, and these are like senseis. These are people that are very well respected, and they are the ones that are basically mentoring these new artists to create really great stories. And so, if you publish your manga in Shonen Jump for enough issues and people really like it, then an animation studio will pick it up and say, "Hey, we want to turn this manga into an anime." And so then they start working on it. Some of the bigger studios like Studio Trigger, Mappa, right? They'll turn these mangas into traditional Japanese anime, and then they get released in Japan first, and if it does well, then they start kind of being distributed globally, and that's how a lot of these big animes are formed. Now, when these IPs are being created, the IP rights are owned by what's called the production committee. And so Shueisha, right, is in a lot of production committees. There's a lot of other players too that can help with merchandising and licensing, TV, uh, different
yeah.
types of distribution, music, whatever, right? So they're all part of the production committee, and they all co-own the IP together. So once that goes global, they all share in the profits. But the animation studio and the animator specifically, they're they're brought on as sort of like contractors into the mix. And so they don't have a direct seat at the table in the production committee a lot of times. And so they're kind of left out of the upside. And the animators are usually people that are just very passionate, right, about anime. So it's a very passion driven industry. And so even though there's very low pay, they still want to become animators. And so, I feel like that's actually a pretty big problem in the industry. Like they don't have enough upside. And so hopefully that's something that with, Web3, we can potentially fix.
Do you feel like the anime heads that are not just the anime heads in Web3, but they're not native to Web3, so they literally just take part in the anime outside of our industry? Do you think that Azuki will still be well received to them over the period of time, despite you guys not having the exactly same origin story as like some of these massive IPs have had prior to you guys?
So there's a question around like, will they sort of accept Web3?
Yeah, because I almost see it as like a stamp of approval in some sense. Maybe it's not. Maybe I got this wrong. Maybe it is, but maybe it's not. Like your origin story is obviously different. The way Naruto, One Piece, Dragon Ball Z kind of came about. Will fans in the anime world that don't share the Web3 love, will they still accept Azuki as an anime brand worldwide, anime.com and everything, despite not having the traditional origin story of creation? I guess.
Yeah, I think so. Um, and we'll find out, right? I think only time will tell, but I think they will because what people want are just captivating stories at the end of the day, right?
Yep.
And it doesn't really matter how it was created. At the end of the day, we just want to consume and engage with great stories. And how are great stories made? Well, they can be made in a variety of different ways, but underneath it all, there has to be passion for the craft. And I can, tell you for a fact that the Azuki team is full of passionate people that want to build this world together, that want to make great stories. We don't compromise on quality. We want to work with the best talent. Um, and in terms of how our anime is being created, it is being created by authentic Japanese animators. Right? So we're
Hey,
working with studios in Japan. The director for our series is Goro Taniguchi, who was the director for Code Geass and One Piece Red. And so, very legendary director in the space. And so we want to do things the right way. And I think like this whole stigma around NFTs, it'll start changing once the content itself is just getting better and better, right? So I think we're trying to play our part in that.
yeah,
Doodles is doing that with their
yeah,
own animated films. Pudgies, right? They put their toys in Walmart, and um, it really doesn't matter that they originated from NFTs. It's a great toy. It's cute. People love it,
yeah.
right? And the socials as well. People don't need to know, or even if they do know, it's like these gifts are really cute, and I like to use them. And all the socials are just super fun, and I want to share with my friends, right? So I think as long as the quality of the product at the end of the day is good, then it really doesn't matter where it originates from.
I got two more questions. This one is a quote. It's not as long as the last one, I promise. It's pretty direct as well, which is fantastic. It says, "You win by outlasting your competition, not beating them head to head." With that being said, that rhymed. Didn't mean to do that on purpose, but it happened. So we're thankful for it. How do you guys plan on outlasting your competition in the space?
Yeah, I think this whole space is still needs to grow, right? And so I don't believe in the this whole PvP mindset because we're still so small in the grand scheme of things, right? So I think that's why I love to support other projects that are building real communities, building real brands and IPs in the space. And I've been meeting other founders, and hopefully they share the same philosophy. Um, I think if you look at why a lot of startups fail, it comes down to a few things. But running out of money is a pretty
Yeah,
common one. If you don't have product market fit, if you're not generating revenue and you run out of money, then you just can't build anything anymore. And
yeah,
so for us, thankfully, we have a healthy treasury, and with anime, there's plenty of ways to generate revenue. And I think what I'm excited about is how can we collectively, as a community, actually take upside in the anime industry together. Right, that's what crypto I think can really enable. And there's a lot of new business models that can form as a result of that, and that's what I'm
yeah.
excited to explore. And so, with crypto, hopefully there's something that can be created that can last generations, and it's not just a startup at this point, where we're really creating a movement and giving people upside in the next generation and next version of the anime industry, and hopefully that can survive a long time.
Last thing, we've spoken a lot. Z, once again, I appreciate your time here with us today. Q4 is obviously a very busy time in crypto, very busy time for the world as well. Election season's coming around. A lot of things are
Yep.
happening this Q4, obviously, as well, especially here if you're
Be
in the
busy.
States. Very, very busy, which is a good thing as well, too. Let's not get that twisted. What are you looking forward to most within Q4 with Azuki and your brand?
Yeah, for us, we have quite a few things coming. Obviously, we just announced anime.com, right? So you can join the waitlist now. We're looking forward to releasing the beta for people to try out. We have episode 2 of our Azuki anthology series coming out as well. And personally, for me, what I'm excited about is how do we continue innovating in Web3 and continuing to be a Web3 native team alongside with growing the IP and growing anime.com. So we have some collabs with some other crypto native teams who are pushing some great technology as well. And they see Azuki as a consumer facing partner. So together, I think we can do some, mischief style releases that I'm really excited about. And then obviously everything that we're working towards, right? Anime 2.0, anime.com and Azuki and, anime chain, all this feeds into that. We're really excited to be early contributors to the anime coin ecosystem, right? So I'm looking forward to releasing more details around that. And ultimately, we saw this with the Azuki Singapore event. The community and the sub communities within Azuki are the ones that really drive so
Yeah.
much what we do. So I'm always looking forward to more commissioned art, more products released from the community. And so, I think we'll be seeing a lot more of that in Q4 too, with all this momentum that we have.
Awesome stuff. Guys, at the end of the episode, if you enjoyed it, please give Z a follow on X as well. You probably already do follow him. If you don't, be sure to give him a follow. We appreciate you guys for tuning in. We'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye, everybody.
All right. Thanks, Andrew.